District, Sherry Friedenrich, City Treasurer of Huntington Beach, and Keith Rodenheis, Orange County Deputy Treasurer. Welcome all.
Welcome.
And I should add, there is a fourth candidate in the race, Pat Desmond. He ran last time unsuccessfully. He called in a couple hours ago sick. I invited him to submit a statement for the show, and he declined to do so. So he's not here, and the three of you are. David, tell me, why are you running, and why are you qualified?
Well, Rick, I certainly have a great passion for public service. I've been on the South Orange County Community College District as a trustee for these past 14 years. That's an organization that has a $435 million budget. I think we've done in our district an admirable job of making good use of our resources on behalf of our students and citizens in South Orange County. I'm also a CPA and have been for over 30 years now. My firm, HBLA, I won't go into all the names, that would take up too much time right now.
It's the longest name in the world, but anyway, yeah.
We celebrate our 25th birthday in business this July. And prior to that, I had experience in public accounting with two of the largest firms in the world, Arthur Young and Company, now part of Ernst & Young.
Right. So you're qualified. Why are you running?
Running basically because I think that this office is one, as you've pointed out in your opening remarks, that needs to have somebody high integrity, high trust, and independence. I think I fit that mark. I think my passion for public service is another reason that I think I would make the best candidate. I've got governing board experience. I've handled large budgets, large personnel matters, all of the things that are involved in running a large
organization. Sherry, why are you running and why are you qualified?
Great. Well, first I'd like to thank you, Rick, for having this debate today, or this discussion. It's a great chance for us to get a little bit of information on each of us out to the public. First, I applied for the position of Huntington Beach Treasurer after the Orange County bankruptcy, where I was encouraged by John Morlock and others to run. I realized that local government needed competent, qualified finance professionals. John then always expected me to succeed him as the county treasurer. And 4 years ago, I was the first person he called when he decided to run for Orange County supervisor. The next week, I got another call from John saying, my friend is thinking of running, and he's planning on putting in a lot of his own money. What do you think? Said, well, I'm very happy here at the city of Huntington Beach. We have a lot of work to do at the city, and I decided not to run.
And I assume that friend was Chris Street.
That was Chris Street.
Who was the current treasurer.
It was. So then in February of 2010, again, I get another call from John, and John and I, of course, talked through the years. He said, Sherry, I think it's the time. So I stepped up to the plate in February and filed papers to run for the position of Orange County Treasurer Tax Collector against the incumbent Chris Street at that time.
Okay, so you have the seal of approval from John Morlock. Okay, why are John Morlock, who was the former treasurer, now county supervisor, why are you running?
Why am I running? I believe that local government needs good, qualified professionals. We need to restore the integrity in the office. I work in municipal finance, treasury management. People who are in the external pool at the county have pulled out. There is mistrust. We need to restore that integrity, leadership, and experience back to that position. I am a licensed CPA. I have a long history of public service, both at the city, plus in private industry. I worked for two complex Fortune 500 companies, Deloitte & Touche, similar to Dave, who was at an international CPA firm also. I was a manager with them. I then went on to work for McDonnell Douglas, was a controller for them. I believe that my expertise has enabled me to significantly help the city of Huntington Beach, and want to put those skill sets to use for the county and restore that integrity that's missing.
Okay, Keith, why are you running and why are you qualified?
Well, thanks for having us today, Rick. We'll start off with my qualifications. I'm a business law attorney with a specialty in the area of securities regulations, so I can dig down deep into these documents. And I think the other candidates don't have that type of legal experience that I bring to the table. Also, I've been a stockbroker for Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, and also State Farm Financial Services. and I was registered with the National Association of Security Dealers, Securities and Exchange Commission, and I have a spotless record with those agencies. And those two experiences prepared me to be the deputy treasurer, where I've been serving for the last 3 years. And that's why I'm running, Rick. I'm running because the people of Orange County need somebody with actual experience in the Orange County Treasurer's Office. You mentioned in the intro, it's a very big position, not a position you can learn on the job. And the only person with actual experience in this position is myself. And during the past 3 years while I have been there, we've won awards from the National Association of County for our efforts and our success in streamlining government services and cutting costs. So I have a record of success while as a deputy treasurer, and I'll be translating that into success in the treasurer's office because I have that actual experience.
Okay, and Keith, of course, you've got the title deputy treasurer. You've been Chris Street's deputy treasurer, and he, as you know, admittedly has been mired in controversy. So what's your take on everything that's happened with Chris in the office?
Sure. Well, the problems that Chris has had are not problems inside the Orange County Treasurer's Office. You know, those problems came from, like you mentioned, when he was a bankruptcy trustee long before I knew Chris. You know, his efforts in the office have been outstanding. We've had, I mentioned a moment ago, the National Innovation Award. You know, we're the only county in the nation to have Standard & Poor's highest rating for principal stability. We're AAA-M. Nobody else has that. And my integrity has never been called into question, and it's really a non-issue, Rick.
Okay, Sherry, any thoughts on that?
Well, I was involved with, when John was the treasurer, I was certainly a fairly new treasurer myself. I spent quite a bit of time at the county working with him on looking at the types of things he'd put in place. I have seen some changes since John's been there. When John was there, all of the pools were AAA rated. Now we have one pool that's AAA rated. That concerns me that the quality of the investments has gone down.
Well, what about that, Keith? You just said it's the highest rating, and she's saying it was higher when John was running the show.
Well, what it is we have two pools. We have the extended pool and we have a money market pool. The AAA-M rating is for the money market pool. That's what Standard & Poor's rates. We have an extended fund pool for maturities longer. It's not like the money market pool that we run. It is unrated, and that's one of the things that I would tackle as treasurer. I'd go out and get that pool rated as well.
Well, David, while we're on
I believe that there was an extended pool at that time, too, that was rated. I believe that there hasn't been a change in the extended pool.
So, David, I see you nodding. Are you concerned that the ratings are going down in the pools?
Not so much. I think most of the bad news, frankly, Rick, is out on the table at this point. I think the strategy has been with the extended pool is to wait until the market corrects and brings that up.
What does that mean, the extended pool? I mean, can you explain that? I mean, what is that so the viewers understand what we're talking about? Is it a lot of money?
Basically, they've carved out a certain amount of assets and segregated it into a separate
because these are like troubled assets. Is that whistle jacket that I heard about or whatever? All right, the whistle jacket, which was an investment that they're hoping it's going to be okay when it matures, but right now it's looking shaky. I see you.
That's actually not accurate. There's two different pools. The first pool is the money market pool that I mentioned is rated AAA-M, and that's for instant liquidity. That's basically, it's a money market account, so we're the bank for Orange County. We have very short-term maturities, and shorter maturities, just like when you buy a CD at a bank, pay less money. Now we have an extended pool that is not for money that we need right at this very moment, and that is has higher interest because, like at a CD, if you put it out further on the yield curve, you get higher ratings.
Okay, Sherry, you had a problem with Keith's wording on the ballot. What was that about his ballot designation, and why was that a big deal, whether he was listed as deputy treasurer?
Well, I think after the bankruptcy, there was a lot of press about the treasurer, obviously Bob Citron, as you mentioned. The legislature passed Senate Bill 866, which put in place minimum requirements for the treasurer. There were 5 minimum requirements that are to be required. When filing closed, I researched the other candidates' information, and it was identified that my friend Keith here may not meet those minimums. So we did research. We provided a lot of information to the courts. The court did rule on it. There was 2 items that Keith had indicated he qualified for. The first was for his degree. which is in political science, I believe, and he has a Juris Doctorate. We had Senator John Lewis, who was in the Senate at the time when Senate Bill 866 was passed, that indicated that the Juris Doctorate was specifically not intended to qualify for this level. Now, the judge did not rule on that in her final ruling, but we had evidence there that it did not qualify. However, the judge did rule in the other factor, which was the senior financial management, that Keith qualified for that. Primarily ruled based on the testimony for the Chief Assistant Treasurer Tax Collector. He had indicated that Keith is known in the office as the Deputy Treasurer, and he is the alternate on the pension board and is senior management. Now, what we provided is we provided letterheads.
Okay, well, we better not go through the whole case.
No, but I do want to get one more point, is that we provided evidence that when Keith was hired, his title is the Executive Assistant, and he's on the organizational chart as the Director of Public Relations. We don't see Deputy Treasurer anywhere on the organizational chart for anyone. In addition, the letterhead, which, as I have for my staff, we have our senior management on our letterhead. For the last 3 years, we have not seen Keith's name on the letterhead.
All right, okay, so I think a part of it is that she's a CPA, you're a PR guy, you know, and you shouldn't be running for the position. I mean, I'm boiling it down a lot, but that's kind of the gist. How do you feel about this?
Well, first of all, I dispute the idea, and I reject the notion that I'm a PR guy. You know, one of my responsibilities is working with people like you, Rick, but I'm definitely not simply a PR guy. And while all those things that Sherry says is nice, a judge that actually heard all of the facts ruled against Sherry on every single point that she just raised, and that's an impartial person. And the fact is that there was a frivolous lawsuit filed in the 11th hour to try to knock me out of the race, because that's what, you know, politicians do. And I'm a first-time person running for office. This is what they tried to do, and they filed a frivolous lawsuit. And frankly, it was a waste of the taxpayers' money, of the court's time. And now we understand why the courts have furlough days. It's because there's these frivolous lawsuits that the court has to deal with, such as this one here.
So, Sherry, was this frivolous hardball politics on your part?
No. I'm concerned. I've been in the Treasury field for a long time. Minimum qualifications are very important, and it is important to have those. Again, the judge relied on testimony. There's a very high level of proof that would be required, and in this case, the proof we provided was not required. I certainly want to make sure the taxpayers have a qualified professional running, so the fact that he is on the ballot is no problem. I wanted to make sure that we had that opportunity. We don't need another Bob Citron to go through who didn't have an education of information that's out there. And not that you certainly are Bob Citron, but we don't need that to happen.
We have to break, and David, when we come back, I'm coming to you.
Okay, terrific.
Okay, we'll be right back after this. And I'm back for this special OC Treasurers debate. Once again, joining me are David Lang, an accountant and trustee of the South Orange County Community College District, Sherry Friedenrich, City Treasurer of Huntington Beach, and Keith Rodenheis, Orange County Deputy Treasurer. David, there's something that you wanted to say about that.
I was just going to say, Rick, that I couldn't have been more pleased to see Sherry and Keith slug it out in court while I was slaving over tax returns in my office during busy season, because it basically gave me a chance to catch up once April 15th rolled around. So I thank both of you for that.
All right. All right. Well, David, I'm not going to let you off that easy, though. Let's talk about, there are some huge issues right now with our cities, with the county. They're going broke. We have huge public employee pension problems, unfunded liabilities. Is there anything the treasurer can do to address those problems?
Yes, I think there's a number of things. I think certainly the treasurer doesn't work in a silo. He needs to work with all of the other chief administrative people within the county. But I think there's an awful lot that we can do as a county to minimize, if you will, government, to achieve more cost efficiencies, to see how we can streamline operations. Certainly that would start within the treasurer's office. If I'm the next treasurer, we're going to look at every possible way that we can make that office as more efficient than it currently is.
Do you think the office is inefficient right now?
No, I'm not saying that it is inefficient, but I'd certainly one of the first orders of business would be to conduct an operational audit and determine what else can we do to really set an example for county government in terms of how we can operate efficiently. And then I think, really try and do that with all of county government. I think there's an awful lot that county doesn't necessarily have to do. They can look at ways to streamline operations. They can look at ways of outsourcing certain services and just cutting down on the size of government and the tax burden that creates for citizens.
Besides more efficiencies within the office, is there really anything a treasurer can do? With all this money, you've got to be safe, right? You can't be taking risks. You can't be going for higher returns, or can you? I mean, what can a treasurer do with all that money?
Well, great point. One of the responsibilities of the treasurer is to collect all those funds and making sure the money comes in timely, just like you at home. You get your paycheck, you want it deposited that day. You don't want to hold the check for a week. So there's a lot of cash management tools that can be done. In fact, one of the things that we've done at the city to help the pension is we have prepaid our pension. The state, we are part of the state pension, CalPERS, and so the city has actually, at my instigation, about 4 years ago, started prepaying our pension. So instead of earning a low interest rate on these safe investments, we're able to send it to the state in July instead of paying it all during the year, and they give us a 7.75% discount for paying.
Right,
so this year, we're going to be able to save about $800,000 for the city.
Chris Street, I believe, has suggested, though, tackling this huge issue of the pensions, like allowing people to opt out, paying them a flat amount. Is that a good idea?
You know, again, as the treasurer, we don't legislate for some of those types of things, so it's a little more difficult for me to look at. One of the things we have done also, the pensions, certainly at Orange County, is OSERS, and those pensions have advisors. At the city, I have really worked with our pension advisors and our deferred comp advisors to get those fees down. We need to make sure that we're paying people a reasonable amount to do the work, but we've been able to reduce fees to almost nothing so that all of those dollars are going to pay those pension costs.
Keith, is there anything that the treasurer can do?
Well, the treasurer is not involved in the collective bargaining process. So to that extent, there's nothing the treasurer, he doesn't sit in on those meetings, and there's little he can do. But I think what the treasurer can do is one of the most respected voices in finance in the county and in the whole state, because Orange County is really a beacon for everybody else. And the treasurer can use that pulpit to speak out on some of these pension issues and find unique ways to rein in some of the costs. And I think that's the best way to do it. Is as the deputy treasurer right now, I work on the pension fund, and I work side by side with both appointees from the supervisors and appointees from the unions. So as the treasurer, you're the swing vote on that board, and you can really bring people together, and I think that's what the treasurer
Well, let's
can
talk
do.
about maybe not so much bringing people together, but having to cast a tough vote. As treasurer, would you cast votes that would really start to address these issues of the unfunded liabilities and the pensions? Would you vote to reduce pensions?
Well, you don't have that vote on the treasurer as the treasurer. You don't, as the treasurer, you don't get to be a part of the collective bargaining process, and as a member of the pension board, you don't get to delve into that area.
But you might vote on the interest rate projection that you're making, right? What would be an acceptable actuarial projection? And maybe go with a more conservative one that would suggest you have to hold the line more than.
Sure.
All right.
Well, like you said, these are really complex issues. So you mentioned, cutting down the actuarial assumption. Right now it's 7 3/4. Now, if we cut that to 5, because the market's been terrible the last few years, and if you've been returning 5% in your portfolio, you're pretty happy. But the end result is by reducing that to 5%, you balloon the unfunded actuarial liability, and you're heaping more costs onto the county right when they don't need it because they're having their own fiscal stresses.
So make believe it's not as big a problem as
it's a problem, Rick, and it needs to be tackled.
Okay, let me. I want to ask you something else, Keith, and that's about Chris. There have been some calls that Chris should step down right now. He's had his investment powers taken away, and that he would like to stay and remain, in office until January. Do you have a feeling on that? Should he step down right now?
Well, the problems Chris has had, again, are not problems that he's had in the treasurer's office. I think that the Board of Supervisors wanted to instill confidence in the people of Orange County, and I think Chris Street wanted to instill confidence in the people of Orange County, and that's why he voluntarily said he would give up his investment authority, and the Board of Supervisors endorsed that. You know, this is the Treasurer Tax Collector's
So
office.
I take that that's a no. You don't think he should step down if he doesn't want to?
I think that people are not looking at the tax collection side as well. We mail out 750,000 tax bills that have been extremely disruptive for everybody to have him step down right there.
Okay. Sherry, what do you think? Should he step down now?
You know, I'm a licensed CPA. I have to take ethics class every year. Someone who has been found in a civil lawsuit for any job that has had fraud and breach of fiduciary duty is not qualified, as the supervisors did. They've revoked his authority. The supervisors don't have further authority to do something. He's an elected official. He would have to take that next step or be recalled by the voters. But again, you have something that has taken that integrity away, the court case, and I do believe he should step down.
David, what's your feeling on this?
I, like Sherry, probably think that he should step down, but I certainly wouldn't be an advocate for taking any action to force him to do that.
Okay. There's been some talk that by some folks that the position should eventually be an appointed position, that this, you know, maybe reporting to the supervisors. Your thought on that, Dave?
I disagree. I think that you know, we live in a democracy, small d, and I think part of that means that we are responsible to our voters. That tells me that that should be an elected position, should be responsible to the taxpayers at large, and I would not support making that an appointed position.
Keith, elected or appointed?
I think it's good for the people to be able to decide who their treasurer is. And when you're managing the treasurer, as the treasurer, you're managing taxpayer dollars. Taxpayers should have a say as who's managing their dollars.
Sherry, is it a clean sweep on this one? What do you think?
It is. We're going through a charter review at the City of Huntington Beach, and I believe the reason that the city came through with no principal losses this last year was because I was elected, even though I got pressure. As you can see, we had the county, which lost money on principal from an investment they sold. They're now held accountable to the voters, so that's the issue.
Okay, so we closed on a note of agreement. Thank you all. Thanks for coming. You can watch this show and past shows by going to koce.org and clicking on Inside OC. My guests have been David Lang, Pat Desmond, and Sherry Friedenrich. And Keith Rodenheis, and not Pat Desmond, I'm sorry. But anyways, all right. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again Inside OC.
Inside OC is brought to you by the following.
Lennar.com. Today's new homes. Everything you want. Everything you need. That's the logic of Lennar. Lennar.com.
Stem cells are showing great promise for the treatment of disease and injury. At UC Irvine, innovations in stem cell research are rapidly moving potential therapies from the lab to the patient.
The city of Anaheim, founded in 1857, Anaheim is Orange County's original city and California's 10th largest city. Information on living, working, or visiting Anaheim is available at www.anaheim.net.